My beloved Madridistas, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back, everybody. Look, it's finally about to kick off. I am so excited about this season. I can't remember the last time I was this excited for a season to start. I think we're going to be witness to something akin to like a football experiment. This is one of the most exciting Real Madrid sides I think we've ever seen. And I got to be honest with you guys, in terms of depth, I think this is the best Real Madrid squad we've ever had. And I know we've had Galacticos in the past, and we've had sort of squads with sort of four amazing, massive names. But in terms of the depth and quality of this squad, we've never seen anything like this, especially if you consider the youth. So we're on to something amazing. I can't wait for this season to start. So let's talk about the Supercopa and the lineups. We need to discuss that, the issue of minutes, which I know is on everyone's mind. And then I'll also talk to you guys about some rumors that have been doing the rounds here in Spain the last few days. But I'm so excited that this is finally going to kick off. So let's talk about Real Madrid. Let's get you up to speed. Let's get started. All right, Madridistas, welcome back. Okay, before we talk about the Super Cup, let's talk about some of the things that have been going on here the last few days. Now, I'm sure by now you've all heard about the incident with Joan Martinez. So, look, in my last video we discussed this, amazing teenager that Ancelotti and his team were so excited about. He was going to be a pivotal part of the central defense. They were going to give him plenty of minutes, increasingly as the season went on. But everybody was so excited about Joan Martinez, such an amazing talent. And of course, 3 days ago, he tears his ACL. Now, this is unbelievably improbable. I mean, that we have an epidemic of ACLs, of knee injuries in this squad, and it's really, really unusual. We've had 6 knee injuries, severe knee injuries, which is the ACL. The meniscus can be handled more easily, but the ACLs are very lengthy recovery times. You usually involve surgery. We've had 6 of these in the last 12 months. So obviously it started with Courtois, then you had Militao, Alaba, and then 2 of our youngsters that were training with the first team, Cesar Palacios and Mesonero, another young player. They also tore their ACLs. And of course, now we have Joan Martinez. That makes 6 ACL tears in 12 months. And this is really just bad luck. Like, look, if these injuries were muscular, we would be pointing our fingers at Pintus. And there have been periods in the past in Real Madrid where you've had a lot of muscular injuries. And the first thing you do is sort of talk to the physical, the preparation team and say, what's going on? And typically that's a sign that you're pushing too hard or moving too quickly. Now, in the case of an ACL, you can't really pinpoint it to anything. I mean, it has nothing to do with the turf. I mean, sometimes this happens when your foot gets stuck and your knee turns. But there's nothing wrong with their cleats. There's nothing wrong with the surface of the pitch. So this really is just very, very bad luck. So I'm afraid Joan Martinez, is going to have to spend the next few months recovering from this injury. I'm sure they'll be working on his upper body strength, something I mentioned in my previous video, that this kid, by all accounts, is amazing, but he needs to put a little, meat on the bones. But very, very bad news. And I think, we're probably going to end up seeing a lot more of Tchouaméni in that center back position than maybe we initially wanted. But anyway, a bit of bad news there. Another story that you guys may have heard about, this came out, about a day or 2 ago. Apparently, the state of Saudi Arabia made an absolutely insane offer for Vini. And it looks like this was real, okay? This wasn't drummed up by the press. The offer that was made was not by a particular team in Saudi Arabia, but rather by the state of Saudi Arabia, the Ministry of Sport. And they were offering something ridiculous. It was about €1 billion for the transfer. They were going to pay, Vini would end up being the highest paid player in the world, even over Cristiano. He'd be making over 150 million euros net per season. That's about 300 million gross. So basically just ridiculous numbers. That would be about 12 to 15 times what he makes at Real Madrid at present. They also wanted to use him as sort of the ambassador of Saudi football with a view to the 2034 World Cup in Saudi Arabia. So this was a very, very big investment that the Saudis were planning on making, but it was rejected. Vini rejected it. And I think we really have to underline this, and this relates to Rodrigo as well. I'm about to tell you about Rodrigo as well. But it does tell you something about Vini and the type of players that we have. These guys, of course, they love money, who doesn't? But they are into history. These guys want to play in Madrid. They want to make history in this club. And you can't just buy them out of that dream. So I think it's just such a beautiful sign of loyalty on the part of Vini that these massive numbers didn't lure him away. So, hats off to Vini. We're incredibly lucky to have him, but some of these numbers are just insane. Okay, another rumor that was going around, and you guys, I'm sure heard about this, but Rodrigo, the word is that Man City is still sort of insisting, trying to see if they can get Rodrigo to come. Of course, knowing all the issues in terms of minutes that we have up front, especially on that right-hand side. So, this is the bestia negra of Pep Guardiola, okay? After billions of dollars of investments, Pep, after 8 years, he only has one European Cup to show for it. And the person that has stabbed Man City in the heart more often than not was Rodrigo. So I think Pep has a bit of Guardiola has a bit of an obsession with Rodrigo. And they're trying to basically put as much money on the table as they can to have him come over. They've collected a bit of money on Julian Alvarez, that sale to Atletico. So they're apparently trying very hard to get Rodrigo to come. But he's made it very clear, just like the case in Vini, he doesn't want to go. He wants to stay in Madrid. I know that Ancelotti really loves Rodrigo. It's one of the players that he sort of has a soft spot for. So Rodrigo doesn't want to go. Ancelotti doesn't want him to go. So again, very grateful and very happy that Rodrigo is showing his loyalty to the club. And, I think we should all be very grateful for that. Okay, and in terms of other news, look, the Barca, we don't want to dwell too much on Barca on this channel, but they did finally announce their 60 million purchase of Dani Olmo. As I mentioned in my last video, I think Dani Olmo is a really good player. I'm just not entirely sure he's worth 60 million. I mean, he's a player that he has a history of getting injured quite a bit. I don't know if you guys were aware of this. He's a fabulous playmaker, but doesn't necessarily score that many goals per se. Look, I think he's a very solid player, but I just think 60 million is quite a bit. I think that the need for Barca to do something here probably has a lot to do with the Nico Williams rejection. I think that they need to keep their fan base sort of excited, so they just kind of have to do these things. I think that for the last 2-3 years, Barca has become a team that is, a club that's no longer about football. It's more about sort of narratives and kind of feeding stories to the base and make sure that everybody has something to sort of, be excited about. So I think that the Dani Olmo transaction feeds into that. Now, believe it or not, people in the Barca media circus are still talking about Nico Williams. I don't know how this is possible. He's made it clear that he's staying, but some of the YouTubers, etc., are still insisting on the Nico Williams issue. I don't know why. Barca certainly doesn't have the money to do it now, even if they wanted. Anyway, so that circus is still going on. And by the way, I don't know if you guys saw that Barca lost 0-3 to Monaco in the Joan Gamper, which is a summer tournament that's played in Barcelona every summer just ahead of the season. So a terrible loss at home, and there were already some whistles to Hansi Flick. The manager just arrived, and they're already whistling at him. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how Barca handles all this. But anyway, that's been going on. So look, let's turn now to the Supercup. Now, I'm incredibly excited to watch this match, but there's something that you guys need to... This is a kind of a tricky match because it's a preseason match, but there is silverware at stake. And, whenever silverware is involved, Real Madrid wants to win. So Real Madrid is going to take this very seriously. But because it's this early in the season, physical conditioning is a big part of the decision as to who plays and who doesn't play. So what I would say is, don't read too much into it. It's very hard to know who he's going to line up, but don't read too much into it, because some of it will have to do with where the players are in terms of their physical preparation. But I'll give you, I'll give you guys an idea of who I think this could be the starting 11 in my view. I think you could see Courtois in the back, Carvajal on the right, Mendy on the left, Rudiger and Militao as center backs. Then I think you're going to have Tchouaméni in a sort of pivot position, Fede in the midfield off to the right, Jude in the midfield off to the left, and then up front you're going to have that sort of unbelievable threesome with Vini, Mbappe, and Rodrigo. Now this obviously is just my preliminary thoughts on the lineup. I would expect a huge amount of changes in the second half. I think Real Madrid will make all the changes that they're allowed to make in this match. So, don't worry. I think that we will see the Ardas, we will see the Brahims, we may even see Enric as well. And quite frankly, yeah, I'm bummed that we may not see Camavinga, because Camavinga, I have a weakness for this player. He's just one of those players that I think it's just criminal to have him on the bench. But I do think we'll see a lot of changes. But look, that's the 11 that I think could line up. There are alternatives to this, of course. I mean, you could also see something like this, which is sort of Courtois, Carvajal, Mendy, Rudiger, Mili. And then in the midfield, you could have sort of a double pivot with, Fede and Tchouaméni. And then you could put Arda a little bit further up on the right, Jude on the left, and then just have Vini and Mbappe up front. This is another possibility. Look, like I say, there's going to be a lot of different permutations that we'll see throughout the year. And for those of you that are worried about minutes, and I understand it is a really big deal, but you need to remember the following. This is going to be a very, very long season, okay? We've never had a team start the season with 7 competitions. 6 is usually the max. Well, it's going to be 7 now. Don't forget that the Champions League, the new format, is going to add games potentially to the group stage. And don't forget that after the Champions League and then going into summer, we're going to have the Club World Cup in the U.S., it'll be the first time we play this tournament, but I know that Real Madrid is going to take it very seriously. So for those of you that are worried about the issue of minutes, we all want to see Arda, we all want to see Enric and Brahim, Camavinga, etc. Don't stress out about this issue yet, because it's very early. It's going to be a very, very long season. And I think there's going to be plenty of minutes to go around. So look, that's kind of where I think we are at the moment. I'm so excited for this to kick off, because, man, this is going to be it's going to be a treat every time these guys play. It's going to be incredible. But I will come back to you with my thoughts after the Supercup. And then, as I mentioned in my other video, I want to do some cool long format stuff for the channel. I'm going to invite some very knowledgeable Madridistas onto the channel to sort of have longer discussions about the season and the lineup, etc. So I'm hoping to do all that. But listen, thanks for joining me again. Very excited about the season. And I will see you guys in my post-match analysis after the Supercup. So thanks again, as always. And as always, a la Madrid.